creeps, it's Cameron again, and welcome back to my channel where I talk about books, movies, writing, and all things spooky. On this episode of Library Macabre, I have part 2 of my March book haul. So in March, I used my 50% off Flame Tree Press coupon that I received in the Nightworms package for that month. So I went crazy ordering Flame Tree Press Jonathan Jan's books. I ordered 5 total. I only have 4 because the other one was a pre-order. And then I actually made yet another order from Flame Tree Press this month. So I haven't got those books yet, but soon I will have them, and then I'll have all of Jonathan Jan's Flame Tree Press books, which is pretty cool. I'm getting ahead of myself. Sticking to the ones that I have right now, first up is Wolfland, and I already put covers on most of these, the plastic Mylar covers. Wolfland, it's a werewolf book. Bet you didn't know that. Then we have Savage Species, which looks really, really cool. Here we have The Sorrows, which I believe was the first book that Jonathan Jan's ever wrote. I believe this is about a castle that has some ancient evil locked up inside. And then here is The Dark Game, which is his latest book. This just came out in March. Actually, it came out in April, but I received it in March. It came a little bit early, which was nice. But yeah, this is about a writer's retreat where weird things start happening, so that sounds amazing. This is one that I ordered off of eBay for very, very cheap. It is called Return from the Grave. It is a short story collection edited by Hugh Lamb. Hugh Lamb just recently passed away. I read about it on an article and immediately tracked down some of his books. This was the least expensive one I could find at the moment. The other ones are all pretty expensive. Here's another one that I got off of eBay for, I believe it was only like $5 with free shipping, so it was a pretty good deal. This is Gone South by Robert R. McCammon. This is a first edition hardcover, beautiful condition. I've heard great things about most of McCammon's books, but especially this one. A lot of people talk about this one and Boy's Life. So yeah, this looks like a good Southern Gothic. Another eBay purchase was Skeleton Crew by Stephen King. Now I do own a first printing of the paperback edition, but I've never owned this in a first edition hardcover. I found this for only $10, so good deal. My very good friend Jonathan Tripp sent me a copy of Voodoo Dawn by John Russo. This is a first edition copy that is signed by Mr. Russo himself, which is amazing. He had a couple of extra copies of this and sent me one, so that was very nice of him. I have a couple of magazines that I picked up here. The first one is, of course, the latest issue of Fangoria. I am subscribed, so I'm getting every issue. I love it. They're doing a great job on the relaunch of Fangoria. I could not be more happy with it. So we have, of course, Us on the cover, which I did see, and I was really, really excited for it. It was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. It was good. It wasn't as good as I thought it would be. I was a little disappointed by it. But overall, it was a good and enjoyable film. But yeah, there's Fangoria, issue number 3. And then I also picked up The Complete Guide to Stephen King. I saw this on a magazine rack while I was grocery shopping and thought it looked really cool. So this is a Hollywood Story magazine. And it just goes over Stephen King's career and all of the books and movies that have come from his work. There's an article, or a timeline I mean, in the back of the book that details every single book that he wrote under his name and under the Richard Bachman pseudonym. I did notice though that they left out Gerald's Game. I thought that was interesting. So it's got some errors within, but overall it's a really cool magazine. I'm glad I picked it up. I was at Goodwill and I found a copy of Into the Water by Paula Hawkins, who wrote The Girl on the Train, which I have a copy of and I never read. I honestly totally forgot to read that thing. So I need to get to that. but this was $2 for a first edition hardcover. And then also I found a first edition hardcover copy of Weird Ohio at Goodwill. And I was so excited to find this because I had actually just checked this out from the library. I was reading through it because I live in Ohio and I'm trying to find some cool, spooky, weird places to visit in Ohio. And I was reading through that book and I'm like, geez, I need to get a copy of this thing for myself because I was wanting to put sticky notes in it. So I thought it would just be easier to have my own copy. Then I found it for $2 at Goodwill, so that was awesome. This book is amazing. It is crammed full of awesome places to visit in Ohio if you like the strange and macabre. Lots of haunted places. It talks about different monsters and mythical creatures that are spotted throughout Ohio, supposedly. Yeah, a really cool guide if you like weird stuff. And then I stopped by the Dollar Tree just to see if they would have any interesting books. Sometimes they do, sometimes I don't find anything. I did find the Kane Chronicles Survival Guide. This is obviously based off of the Percy Jackson universe books that Rick Riordan writes. I like Percy Jackson. I really love the first series. I haven't read Heroes of Olympus yet, though I hear that's really good too. And then I hear that the books just kind of go downhill from there. It seems like it's kind of just turned into Rick Riordan milking the Percy Jackson universe for all it's worth. But I will read the Heroes of Olympus books, and I'll still read the Kane Chronicles too, because I am interested in Egyptian mythology, but I might stop after that point. And also at the Dollar Tree, I found The Serpent King, which is by Jeff Zittner. This is a young adult contemporary book about a bunch of kids living on the Bible Belt, and apparently the church they go to deals with serpent handling. And I actually just listened to the Southern Gothic podcast that talks about serpent handlers, and that was really interesting. Of course, I'd known about that before, but I'm kind of interested to read more about it just because it's so weird and so out there. So I saw this and I was like, hey, that ties in perfectly with the podcast that I just listened to. So I'll give this a read and see what I think. I took a really quick trip over to Half Price Books because I had a 50% off coupon, and I found a first edition hardcover copy of Under the Dome by Stephen King. I have been trying to get my hands on a copy of this thing for a while, but it seems like every time I find a first edition of this book, it is in horrible condition because this thing is over 1,000 pages. And usually if you buy it secondhand, somebody has already read it and they have broken the spine and they've obviously spent a lot of time with it. But this copy is in perfect shape. There's absolutely not a thing wrong with it. It's in very nice condition. So it was $12, and then I had my 50% off coupon, so it wound up only being $6. Not bad. And then also at Half Price Books, I found a copy of Spooksville, book number 9 by Christopher Pike. This one is called The Wishing Stone. All of these books have been reprinted with new covers and everything, but the older editions are still pretty rare and hard to find. I also went to Second and Charles, which is one of my favorite places, and I found this comic book adaptation of The Mummy, the Universal monster film. This just looked really cool, and it was only $5, so picked that one up. I also found this book right here that was published by Zebra in 1991. It is called Dark Windows. This was literally like 75 cents. It's in great shape. No spine creases or anything. This one looks like it's more of a suspense thriller than it is a horror novel, but I really love those covers that Zebra did for their suspense books. It's usually just a moonlit house with water crashing up on the cliff below. There's so many of these that look exactly like this, but I'm a sucker for them. I don't know why. I also found a first printing of the very first Nightmare Hall book, which is by Diane Ho. This one's called The Silent Scream. It has the nice step back artwork. I am very close to having all 29 books in this series. I'm only missing, I think, 4. So, getting close. I also picked up The Rain Ghost, which is a point horror book that I had never heard about before. So that one looks interesting. And here is Fear Street Sagas, book number 7, Children of Fear, written by R.L. Stine, quote unquote. Actually, R.L. Stine did not write any of the Fear Street sagas. He wrote the original Fear Street Saga trilogy, but all the others that came after that were actually ghostwritten. These ones are actually pretty rare. I don't come across these very often. I also picked up number 12 in the Nancy Drew Diaries series by Carolyn Keene, another one that's completely ghost written, obviously. I do hear that some of these books are actual murder mysteries, which if you're at all familiar with Nancy Drew, you would know that she did not often solve murder mysteries because that's a little too dangerous for a kid's book. But yeah, I kind of like that these books are going with the murder angle. Also at Second and Charles, I found Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Tales of the Slayer Volume 3, and a hardcover copy of The House by Bentley Little. I actually have a paperback of this, and I did not realize that this was in hardcover. So now I have a nice hardcover edition, and I need to hurry because my battery is dying. I have quite a few mass market horror paperbacks here, so I'm going to try to go through these pretty quickly. This one is called When Shadows Fall by Brian Scott Smith. It takes place on Halloween. That's all I need to say. And here's a book by Yvonne Navarro. It is called After Age. It's a vampire novel. Another one by Yvonne Navarro, Dead Rush. The Foretelling. This one's by Caroline Crane. Looks really spooky. The Holmes Dracula File. This is by Fred Saberhagen. I actually already owned a copy of this and didn't realize it until I brought this home. But actually this book is in mint condition, and the other one that I owned wasn't in the best of shape, so it worked out. Next is Souls, and this is by Katina Alexis. Deathbite. It's a killer snake. Need I say more? And last but definitely not least is Crib, which is a very popular cover. It's got the nice step back artwork there. So happy to add a nice edition of this book to my collection. I've been looking for it forever. Alright, so that is all for my March book haul. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Have a spooky night. Later, creeps.